So today I'm venturing once again into the world of museum art, but turning it into home decor. I already have one video out of turning museum art into a punch needle tote bag, if you want to go check that out. But I learned a couple of things since that video. Number one, Leopoldine Kolbe, who's the artist of Basket of Flowers in my previous video, is a woman. I didn't know this. The Met's website said nothing about her being a woman. I ended up finding this out elsewhere, but super cool. We love to see it. I just wanted to highlight that. Number two, there isn't just one Basket of Flowers. So we've got Kolbe's collection, but there's another work with the same title, made in the same year, in the same country, published by the same publisher, but it's a different artist. I was fully expecting to bring you some fun gossip on these two, because why else would there be so many similarities? I was really hoping that the artists were beefing or something like that, but unfortunately, the actual story is pretty mundane. After doing a little bit of research, I learned that they're part of a larger floral note card set, sold at the time made up of several Austrian artists with works ranging from 1907 to 1912. Cool stuff! And I really liked Gustav Kahlhammer's version and want to turn it into a decorative pillow for my room. So that's what we're doing. The colors of the original print were really appealing to me from the start. Super Gracie Grace core, and so I kept all of the same colors for my pillow. Well, almost. I changed the background from black to white. I also changed the basket from orange to brown because I thought that there was too much orange in the original, which is kind of ironic looking at my final punched piece, but whatever. I'm actually so bad at drawing evenly spaced out grid lines, as you can see, but I'm doing my best here. This is probably the first time I'm really making something for myself. I don't want to mess up. Okay, so my original design was a little smaller with only one border, but I made it a little bigger afterwards by drawing some more complex borders. The recolor design only had a little bit of orange, so I decided to use the color for my borders as well. I started out with punching these borders, and I really do need to say that truly, it befuddles me, flabbergasts me even, that people don't know about this punch needle trick. So I'm gonna show you. This is gonna change your life. Normally, you hold a punch needle in the direction you're punching, but what we're doing here is that we're turning it to the left at about 90 degrees. You're probably shocked because it kind of goes against all the rules of punch needling that I've drilled into your head since I started this channel. But here's the thing, the rules are literally fake. They're fake. You can do whatever you want. Because by turning our needle like this, we get loops that look like this on the other side. Nice and straight, tubular even. This is called the stem stitch, and it's especially great for things like borders because of that clean, tubular look, and because you get loops that are just a smidgen taller with the same needle. I'm using an Oxford 10 regular. So you get some variety in your piece as well. But I punched so many rows of stem stitch for this pillow. I did something like 3 rows of orange, 2 rows of white, and then another 2 rows of orange. But it was super worth it because they looked great on the other side. I also started on the basket by punching the outline, and I used an Oxford 9 regular just so that it would pop out a bit more. But then I got super overwhelmed at the thought of punching in the middle part because all my lines were messed up, so I just put it off. And something I should mention is that I'm using chunky wool rug yarn for this pillow. I love chunky yarn. It's the best. It's so fun and easy to work with, and it's actually the yarn weight that's used the most often with traditional punch needle projects. However, the chunky yarn that I buy comes in skeins. I think they're skeins, or are they hanks? I don't know. Whatever. Let me know in the comments what these things are. I think they're skeins. The thing about skeins, though, is that you can't exactly punch needle them right off the skein. They're looped together at intervals, so you have to wind your yarn into a ball before punching with them. So that's what I'm doing. I find it easier to do this sitting, crisscross applesauce, but some people use the back of a chair or something else to unravel the skein and wind it into a ball. I'm including this in the video to give people more of an understanding of the behind-the-scenes work that's involved with punch needling, but also so you can share in my confusion, because, what? I'm so confused. One second the yarn is fine, and the next second I'm dealing with this. This entire clip of me winding my yarn is 45 minutes. Come on, you gotta respect the commitment when you see it. The foliage for this punch needle pillow was also punched with an Oxford 9 regular, which made things super fun because each flower petal or leaf was super small, so I could easily finish one and switch over to a different color, or switch to filling in the background as well, especially since the background was being punched with the 10 regular instead of the 9 regular. I figured that I'd get the blue and orange parts done first, since there were few of those compared to the green parts. And for the foliage overall, I made an adjustment on the fly, which was the size. So I made some parts of the foliage a little bit smaller than the pattern that I drew, because I knew that they would be right next to other flower petals and leaves, plus surrounded by a white background, which was a pretty good call because I was able to avoid overcrowding my punch needle stitches. Only after I was done all the foliage did I punch the inside of the basket. The basket in the original artwork was woven, and I attempted to replicate it exactly in my pillow, but unfortunately it just wasn't working out. The stitches were getting really overcrowded, and I knew it wouldn't look good, so I made the weave slightly bigger, which worked well. As you can see, I'm doing a regular stitch here for the weave, but I actually end up changing it into a stem stitch off camera because it looked better. One thing I don't recommend when punch needling is jumping over stitches. If you're at a dead end, just cut off your yarn, man. However, that becomes a little bit tedious when you're punching something in a grid or grid-like form, like a basket weave. What I recommend is something that I like to call pseudo-jumping. So just punch normally, and when you reach a section where you would jump over it, and create an extra tall loop, and repeat this until you're done punching. Once you're done, cut all the extra loops, and now you've got nice separated ends of yarn without all of the hassle of starting and stopping. Wow, I'm actually popping off with all of my punch needle tips this video. This is what happens when you don't upload for a month. Now I had one job and one job only, filling in the background. Filling it in was nice and relaxing because I didn't have to change yarns or needles, and I had a very simple formula for filling it in. Directional punching, which basically means punching in a way that outlines or matches the direction of your other elements. The corners were easier for this because it was just punching straight lines, but filling in the background behind the foliage was a more strategic endeavor. For the most part, I'm filling in the corner sections of the background by punching in every third hole and going in every second hole in case the stitches weren't stacking like bricks. For the foliage background, I was going in every second hole as best I could so that the background wouldn't be spotty. And my favorite part of this was every time I surrounded a flower or leaf, because it was so satisfying to go in and finally cut off those ends, knowing that the foliage is exactly where it's supposed to be. Along the way, I ended up finishing my ball of white yarn. Luckily, I had 3 more skeins of it, one of which I'm winding here. It's always important to have enough yarn for your projects, because yes, you can always buy another cone or skein or whatever, but you can't guarantee that it'll be in the same dye lot. Towards the end, I ended up finishing that second ball and made a mini ball of yarn from a part of the 3rd skein so I could finish punching in the background. But we are totally not done because I do not have any of the materials needed to turn this into a pillow, namely wool fabric and a pillow form. So I'm going to steam press my punch needle piece first so that it lies flat and all the loops even out, and then go get those materials. I have an announcement to make. For the first time in my youthful existence on this planet, I went to Fabricland, which for all of my Canadian friends, all of my fellow Ontario friends watching, you've probably seen those commercials all the time. But I went for the first time, and no offense to any older folks watching my videos, y'all are great. but I was probably the first person under the age of 55 to step into that store. It was like jumping into another world. I couldn't find wool fabric when I went there, partly because all the employees were giving me a look equivalent to this emoji, like I was an alien or something. So I didn't want to ask, but I found some cotton flannelette, which also works. It was so funny. The lady cutting my fabric looked at me and was like, "Do you even sew?" I'm totally serious. She was like, "Do you sew, or is this just like a thing of the moment for you?" And yes, I know I looked out of place there in more ways than one, but she didn't have to come at me like that. I ended up telling her that I've been sewing for a while now, despite my youthful, cherubic looks. And she gave me a look that was like, "Sure, Jan. 7 out of 10, would go again, probably with one or more of my friends as backup, and also to marvel at that time capsule of a store." Anyways, I'm cutting this flannelette into 2 pieces to sew together to my punch needle piece. I'm using instructions from Amy Oxford's book on punch needling to make this into a pillow. She basically has a set of step-by-step instructions on how to make a punch needle pillow, so I'm not really sure how much I should explain in detail. I'm not trying to gatekeep here, I just don't want to get copyrighted since they're from her book. But, Amy, if you're watching this and you're okay with me sharing the instructions, let me know and I will gladly write the instructions in the comment section. But I did a little hem on both of the pieces and attached them to my punch needle piece, and then sewed a straight stitch twice and cut off all the excess fabric. And now we're done with the sewing! I turned it inside out and poked the corners out with a knitting needle. And yes, I have gold-colored knitting needles with my name. What else did you expect? And now we are at the penultimate step to finishing our punch needle pillow. And this step is whip stitching. When I started punch needling about 2 years ago, I finished all my projects like this, and I hated it because I didn't know any of the techniques for hemming or even the proper techniques for whip stitching itself. But now that I do know, it's easy peasy. I used the white rug yarn that I had left over and a darning needle to whip stitch the pillow. I recommend taking out about an arm's length of it. Any longer and it'll get tangled. And whip stitching the same way that you'd punch needle border stitches, go in every second hole, except for the corners, where I'd say add as many stitches as you need to cover up the monk's cloth. Getting the needle through when you only have 2 layers of fabric is fine. Man, the parts where the fabric is overlapping were difficult to whip stitch. I would actually use an espadrille needle to make the hole itself, then use my darning needle to actually make the stitch. I still need to get better at making the stitches more even on the fabric side, but I think I did a pretty good job here. Now I'm going to clean up the piece by using a sticky roller and a lint remover to get rid of all of the fuzz, and then putting in my pillow form. So I'm just gonna put it in, and here is the finished pillow. I'm actually really impressed with myself. This is my best punch needle project yet. It looks super cute on my bed too. So yeah, this was a W for me. I want to keep making more cool punch needle things. If you think that's a good idea, you should like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for notifications. Very few people who watch me are subscribed, so I'll just say it right now. You're so cool if you do. Comment below what I should make next. And thanks again to the Met for making so many artworks available for the public to use.